Greetings again, Extreme Disciples, and as I am sure I have gotten your attention with the title of this message, What Are You Full Of?, I will tell you why I asked the question. Last night during our Bible study here at church, we talked about what Jesus was full of and how being full of this helped him be the extreme disciple that he was and to gain followers. You know, we're trying to get people to follow Christ, but if we're not full of what he was full of, then whenever the situation comes for us to be Christ-like or to be great disciples of Christ, we may not respond the way he would have responded. So I'm going to read to you out of John chapter 1, verse 14. Love this. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Jesus, God, became flesh in the form of Jesus. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Jesus, when he came, he was full of grace and truth. It didn't say he had more grace than truth, and that's what I want to talk about today. Because we have several people that might think they're full of one, but lack the other. And I want to give you one story as to show how Jesus, being full of grace and truth, would respond to the situations that we respond to today. When the woman was brought to Jesus, caught in adultery, the Pharisees were trying to find some reason to accuse Jesus. So they bring this woman who's caught in adultery. This is in John chapter 8. You can read it if you want to. In John chapter 8, they bring this woman that's been caught in adultery. There's no denying that she has been caught in sin. But they bring her to Jesus. And we remember, Jesus is full of grace and truth. So what would a proper response be like if someone was presented that was caught in sin to someone who's full of grace and truth? Well, here we have it. First, I love the truth part. Jesus brings out the truth part. First, he says, well, listen, if any of you are without sin, cast the first stone. And there's the truth part right there. So listen, if you're without sin, go ahead and cast the first stone. None of us have any right to accuse anybody else that's caught in sin if we ourselves are sinful. So there's beautiful truth behind that. So then that's because today you see people who are caught in sin, they may not be having the same kind of sin as the person that they're trying to accuse, but they're still sinful, and they're trying to throw stones at people. So they say, well, we're full of truth, and we're going to throw stones at people because they're caught in sin. But then he responds in grace. What does he say? After he says this, he says, if any one of you is without sin, let him throw the first stone. So then he stoops down and writes on the ground. And at this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? No one, sir, she said. Then neither do I, Jesus declared. See, he was the only one that could condemn her, and he did not condemn her. And that's the grace. That's the grace in that relation, that grace in that interaction with that woman. The truth was, if you can condemn her, you go ahead and you throw the stone. But Jesus says, I'm not even going to condemn you. That's such a beautiful thing. So we see truth and grace. But then there's one more, and I love this even more. There's one more little bit of truth in this. He says, go now and leave your life of sin. Just a little bit more truth to that. Yeah, you can have grace. You can have grace that accepts the sinner, loves the sinner, turns people away from the sinner that are trying to condemn the sinner. But we have to tell the sinner, leave your life of sin. And that's the truth part again. See, he was full of grace and truth. Don't be that person that accepts everyone exactly the way they are and not tell them that they need to leave their life of sin. That means that you're too full of grace and you don't understand that there has to be some truth to your encounter with this person. And also don't be the person that says you need to leave your life of sin, and until you do, we won't accept you, because then you're trying to say, well, I have the truth, but you don't have grace. Many people are full of one or the other. But Jesus was full of both, and that's how every encounter was the ideal way we are to encounter those that are caught in sin, or those that are sick, or whatever the case may be. We need to be full of grace and truth. And that's how we are going to be a shining light to the community. That's how we are going to get people to follow Christ, because we are following Christ, being full of grace and truth. Go out and be extreme disciples. Be full of grace. Love people even though they're caught in sin. But be full of truth. Tell people, go, but sin no more. Have a great day. Go be an extreme disciple. God bless.